Hi everyone, I'm Tom and today I'm going to be showing you Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is a new cooperative game. It's campaign based, it uses an app. You will be exploring, sneaking, fighting and discovering your way through the 15th century. This is based on the video game of the same name, and one of the main aims of both is to be very historically accurate. So it's 1421. We're in Bohemia, once the crown jewel of the Holy Roman Empire. But after plague, war, royal shenanigans, the people just don't know what to do with themselves. Intrigue ensues. There are rebels, there are popes, there's a roll of traitors. In this starting scenario I have here, we are trying to find Wolf of Wolfsburg to find out what information he's got. To find this roll of traitors, which will discredit Prague's archbishop, who we suspect of being loyal to the Hussite rebels. Look at me talking like I know this kind of history. I'm not just summarising what's on a screen in front of me. Oh no. This is on Gamefound right now. The link to the campaign will be in the description so you can check out all of the final stuff, what the game will come with. What I have here is a prototype, of course. It's a prototype of the first scenario with a prototype app that will appear on screen at various points. So just know that, yeah, things will be different in the final version. So if we just look at the starting of the app, it takes us through the story, setting the scene, giving us our main quest, find the Wolf of Wolfsburg. And a notable thing here is that all of the people will be voiced in the app. So it's not just the narrator and kind of main characters. Here's just a sample from the prototype.
Who are you with anyway? Not that it matters much. If you ask me, this is no time for choosing sides. A man's got to stay flexible. Sir Ignatius over there at the monastery knows a thing or two about that. He used to be a good Catholic, but the word going around is that he's the turncoat who let the Hussites into the monastery.
And then the app guides us through basically this setup that I've done here. It tells you, this is the path into the village. This is where we are. Look at the minis. They're not so many. It tells us there is a muffled conversation going on in the inn that we can eavesdrop on, but that's a suspicious action. This will be something that we can select in the app, but it's represented for us playing the game physically by this token. It tells us to mark it as suspicious because doing this is a suspicious activity. When your suspicion increases, you take tokens off this suspicion tracker, making it more likely that guards will notice us when we come to that. Speaking of our characters, here they are. There's 3 in the prototype, and the game will be solo compatible, but for the prototype, needed 2 or more. So it's all lovely dual layer boards, your character tile slots in there all nicely. So Commoner Zahora, he had a letter introducing himself and kind of giving you some backstory from the people that have recruited you. He's got certain dice that he'll be good at, so he's good at strength and perception checks. Well, slightly good. He gets 1 special die each of those. He's got 10 vitality, that's his health. He's got 3 stamina, that will be spent to reroll and do other things. And he's got a character perk, hot-headed. Once per scenario, he can add 2 to a combat check. There are various statuses that we can get. Those are other ways that our suspicion will go up, but they're not as easy to get rid of. When our suspicion goes into the depleted zone, once we do a character refresh, kind of an end of round thing that gets us all of our actions back, refreshes our stamina, and puts our suspicion back on the tracker. The downside of doing a character refresh is all of the enemies refresh as well. If you were to get a status though, for example, if he drank his cheap wine, one of the started items that he gets, he can use this to reroll any 2 dice, but by drinking this cheap wine, he will become drunk. So you would put a suspicion on there, and suspicion in your negative statuses won't just return when you refresh. You're going to have to do things. Like, for example, if you would become dirty, there might be an option to wash your character that you will discover later on in a particular place. We have 3 action points that we can spend, and we've got this section here for perk points that we will earn. That's experience that we can spend to increase our attributes or to earn perks. Also, there is a burning house with boarded up doors here. We can investigate that. That's another suspicious thing. The one for the inn should be over by the inn, of course. And there are also some lovely herbs on the ground that we can investigate. This is not suspicious. We're just bystanders collecting herbs while Rome burns. So once we have been given all of our story and the map appears, that's when we can take our actions. The map being on the screen basically says you're not in the middle of something. You're not in the middle of an action or a check or a conversation, and you can now do actions. Our choice of actions are on this player aid. We can move, we can interact, and we can assist another player. You can do some free actions as well. You can alter things in your inventory, change things around because you've only got certain slots. Like you've got 2 hands, of course. You can only have 1 weapon though. Switching your inventory when you're in combat uses stamina up. You can save an action for next time so that next round you'll have 4. You can advance your character for free. You can spend perk points, as I said, on the attribute dice and the perks. And you can become stealthy as a free action. This will make it harder for guards to see you, but it means that you can only move 1 space at a time. The move action, you're a bit limited to the way that the map is at the start here, but in the future there'll be more tiles that you can walk across. Moving is an action. You just move 1 space, but you can spend stamina for every additional space you would like to move. Later on, as we discover things, we will get these passage tokens that will allow us to move onto spaces that you're not allowed to at the start. So you can see that this border here is white. That means that it's a passable bit of terrain. This brown border here means that this is impassable for now until we find the path in, basically. So of course, the most important thing, this house is on fire. So the most important thing for me, this house is on fire and the door's boarded up. Someone is inside and shouting. Performing suspicious actions might make it so that guards end up coming around to you. So you got to be a bit careful doing that. But someone's inside and shouting. So yeah, my first thing, I want to take this action to have a look at this boarded up door. Someone's inside and shouting. And so we press on it, we have some conversation. It shouldn't be hard to loosen the nails sealing the door. You don't exactly have to be a master locksmith to do it, so get to it. And here we go, a skill check. Now this requires some agility, which unfortunately Commoner Zahora does not have. But we can show off some skill checks now. Skill checks will always involve 6 dice. Now these white, just generic dice will always be used to top up the skills that you don't have, and they just have a 1 on them. That's 1 success. You can see for this test we only need 1 success, but yeah, there's a 1 in 6 chance on these dice. So we can take some of those. Now you have to include your attributes. So he's got a strength and a perception. He can put in a red and a blue die. They don't really help him for this though, because they've got different faces on them. So the strength has a success still, but it also has these faces that correspond to strength checks. So that is a success, but only in a strength check. So it's 50-50 if you're doing a strength check. Otherwise, it's still just 1 in 6. The perception dice are similar. So they've got faces that correspond to just doing these perception checks, making it 50-50, but they also have a shield face, making those good when you're fighting, because they'll protect you from a hit. We might as well just chuck them in. Basically, all of the dice are just 1 in 6 for this, but we're rolling 6 dice and we only need 1 success. So you roll your dice, and what have we gotten? Absolutely nothing. Now, looking at his items, the bludgeon lets him reroll any 2 dice in combat. He could use his cheap wine to reroll any 2 dice, but then he becomes drunk. Now, there's a basic reroll ability that anyone can do that costs 1 stamina. But there's also an action that we could do. So let's say our basic reroll wasn't successful. Once in every skill check, remember one of the actions available is assist other players. Jan the Inquisitor can spend an action to give Zahora a reroll of 6 dice. You don't have to reroll all of them, but in this case, he's got no successes, so he might as well. We reroll, and he's got the magic success and a defend, which is obviously meaningless, but we can put into the app that he's got a success. So great, we succeeded. Zahora has earned a perk point, Dexterity. So you grab a green token. I tend to use these. This action isn't available anymore, so you could just pop it on Dexterity there. So as a free action, he could spend that perk point to upgrade his agility. At the moment, his skill is 0, so it costs you 1 to upgrade. It costs you basically the number you're going to. He would need 2 experience to upgrade his perception, because he's already got 1. He could also spend it on perks. A good time to have a look at perks for a second. So there are levels of perks, and they correspond to different colours. So if he's spending agility, he would need a green perk. The level corresponds to the level of your skill. So he wouldn't be able to get a perk at the moment because he's level 0. But they all cost 1 XP as long as you meet the level requirement. And they could give you things like treating a certain symbol as 2 defense because you're a dodger. Or hidden reserve, permanently increase your stamina by 1. They're just level 1 things. And obviously they get more and more powerful as you go along. As well as the perk points, we have found the Dismayed Wife. Who bursts out of the house, and her attitude is set to white. Attitudes are these snap bases that go on the bottom of the minis, and they indicate certain things to you. So white means this is a non-player character. We are not going to fight them. We don't have to roll alert checks for them. There are different colours when we come into contact with people that we will fight. And speaking of those kind of people, a looming figure comes from around the house, wanting to know who unblocked the door. They boarded up this house and set it on fire, unfortunately. The woman is running towards the woods. She goes here. So C4 doesn't actually have a tile, but you know how coordinates work. She's just running off stage. But Kashpar is coming on here, and his attitude is set to orange. Now, the different colours of attitude correspond to the dice that you'll roll in alert checks. When the app tells you to, maybe a guard moves to a new space, or a guard appears in a space, or you've done a particular action that might alert some guards, or you do a move action into a space with guards, you'll have to do an alert check, and this is where your suspicion comes in. So as the colours get, yellow, not so wary, orange, quite wary, red, very wary. So it gets more and more likely they will spot you as you do these alert checks. And so say the app was asking us to roll one right now, we would roll an orange die because Kaspar's the only person there, and we haven't done anything particularly suspicious yet. The app hasn't told us to move any suspicion. So we have these 3 exclamation marks, which is the least likely symbol to appear. Well, depending on the die that you're rolling. So we would roll this orange die, and we rolled nothing. So he isn't alerted by anyone right now. But if we had rolled the 3 exclamation marks, we would tell the app that, and it would tell us what happens now. Maybe we would have to fight. Maybe we would have to do some quick talking to try and get a way out of this. There are, multiple ways of doing things. It's not just about, oh, they've seen you, now you need to fight. So Kashpar's appeared. The wife has run away. And so we have a choice. We can say, this is none of my business, and let him run after her. We can try and talk to him, stall him. Maybe Jan's speech might come into this. Or we could attack him, and I could show you combat. So that's what we'll choose to do. So Zahora is attacking him. We need to focus the guard on him. This shows that basically their bases are touching, they are focused on each other, they are fighting each other. The person taking hits is the person focused with him. So we need to perform a combat skill check. So it's going to use the same range because it's Zahora. And this is a pretty tough fight. The combat will tell you 2 different success ranges that you need. To get no hits, you need 6 successes. And to kill him, you need 8. That's a big ask, isn't it, with 6 dice? So let's see what we can do with this skill check. So let's hope for a good roll to begin with. We've got a success there. It doesn't defend against anything, but it's a success. Because we're doing a strength check, that symbol counts as a success on a red die. So we've got 3 successes basically from that. We can do the basic reroll. Zahora can spend a stamina and roll his 3 dice. Oh, that didn't turn out so well. He's got the bludgeon here that will let him reroll any 2 dice in combat. Now, using reroll abilities from items costs a stamina. Using them from perks does not cost a stamina. Another bonus of those. So he could reroll 2 dice and try and get a better result there. Unfortunately, no, he's still got nothing. It is a 1 in 6 chance on these dice. Jan could step in and spend another action. He's really depleted his actions trying to help out Zahora this round. But it is a reroll of up to 6 dice. So he could roll these 3 again. Gets another success. Close, and why not? Zahora will drink his cheap wine. He becomes drunk, so a bit more suspicious now, but he can reroll these 2 dice. Come on, Zahora. There we go. He has got 5 successes. I think we'll be happy with that. He has got his once per scenario ability, but maybe there'll be a tougher fight we need to do something with here. And the fight might go on. So we put into the app our 5 successes. It tells us to put an injured token on our enemy. Zahora received 2 hits, so his vitality goes down, but his vitality was 10. But unfortunately, his weapon becomes damaged. If his bludgeon takes another damage, it's destroyed. And he receives blood status. That's 2 statuses he's just gained. So now on 2 exclamation marks, he will be discovered in an alert check. But he earned a perk point for weapons. So he is level 1 in strength. He could get a perk. Now, since his perk point is in weapons, he would need to get a weapons perk. But just to show you some, like, say, thick-blooded, you cannot receive the blood status. Tight grip, refresher stamina after resolving combat. Now, this is across all 3 levels, but tons and tons of cards and combos you can make across the different attributes. But unfortunately, that combat wasn't enough, and Kashpar has got other things on his mind, so he is not going to stick around.
Nice try, but I ain't ticklish. Now get out of my way.
If she gets away, I'm coming back for you, and trust me, burning alive won't seem so bad anymore.
Sometimes, combat will continue. You will get the opportunity to run away and end it, or you can continue combat. In this case, Kashpar has got other priorities. But now we have unlocked some more actions. We can enter the burning house. And now that we've done something on this kind of starting tutorial space, it will now let us explore north. And so taking that action would discover this crossroads. Story events might appear. Sometimes these objects might appear. He's actually in the burning house. Spoilers. But yeah, we can go and investigate the burning house. Certain tiles aren't new locations. They represent, once you went inside. Oh, look, that's what the burning house looks like inside now. And similarly for the other locations that we will come across. There are more NPCs to discover along the way. Plenty more guards with their own levels of frustration and annoyance. A shifting main quest as we discover more ways to complete our goal. The main thing is find Wolf of Wolfsburg and get this roll of traitors. But as we go on, we might find different things that we actually need to do. And maybe additional objectives. For example, I did try going the talking route and sneaking around loads, but I did end up at great cost to the characters fighting and killing some guards, to which an optional main objective came up, saying, well, there's only one guard left now. Go and kill that guard and be known as the Butcher of Wolfsburg. So a load of surprises hidden away in the apps. And, this is an adventure game. Peeking through fences, listening to conversations, wandering around and talking to people, you will find side objectives as well that you can complete. And of course, the order in which you do things. You might get told of a little secret in one area, and going back to another area, you might have unlocked a dialogue in the app now, because you've been told where to look for some treasure. The world is remembering choices you've made, things that you've done, things that you have been told about, and your game is being adjusted based on all of those things. There's more on the campaign page, again linked in the description, and I hope one day with a final version there'll be more from me, maybe playing through. But hey, that's all for the future. For now, we need to make it happen. It's on Gamefound right now. I hope this quick overview has given you a good idea of the spirit, the idea of Kingdom Come Deliverance, with just a bit of the early bits of the first scenario, the least spoilery bits that I can, although I did say some things. I can't help myself. There are tons more playthroughs and videos on this channel. I hope you'll find more that you'll be interested in. Thank you very much for joining me though, and I will see you for the next game. Bye everyone.